To me, there was one moment early in the game which underlined the difference between the leadership that the Lions have and the leadership that the Bears have. And I'm not saying the Lions aren't more talented, because they are, and they're a better football team. But Tyreek Stevenson pushes Jameson Williams well after the play. No penalty. Jameson Williams doesn't like it, taunts him back, gets a penalty. 5 seconds later, there's Dan Campbell grabbing him and saying, hey, we don't need this. We don't went on for a good 10, 15 seconds. Right there, contact, player, coach, communication in the moment. 5 seconds later after that, seemingly he's catching an 82-yard bomb, streaking down the field, and he has an unbelievable performance. That is leadership. That is handling something that you don't want. Yeah. That is accountability. The Bears have none of that.
I think this was their most normal loss in a very long time. Nothing absurd really happened. No Hail Mary, no strange time management decisions to end the game, not really even a blowout. Just outplayed and outclassed by a better team with dashes of multiple competent drives that give you the slightest glimmer of hope to play spoiler. Oh, the audacity. I don't even know if this makes me feel any better about this season. You know, the wishful part of me hopes this means we're trending towards normal, which at this point, does that even matter? So, as the Bears take another L against the Lions with 2 more games to go in the season, what did we learn about the Bears this week?
We learned nothing, honestly. Like you said, there was nothing there out of the ordinary or things that you didn't expect. I mean, you know, there are some things that happen where you're like, okay, I didn't expect Rome to fumble twice, right?
Yeah.
But you did expect drives that are promising to end in terrible ways. You did expect the defense, you know, when it was 3rd and 17, it was a 3rd and 17 play. Everybody in Chicago knew that Detroit was going to convert that. You know, I think it would have been unexpected if the Bears actually stopped it, to be honest. When it was 4th and whatever, and you're like, oh, they're trying to draw them off sides, you knew that the Bears were going to jump, right?
Yeah.
Because they just do these things every single week. Tevin Jenkins left the game with an injury. You kind of knew that was going to happen, right? It didn't surprise you. It's just a very Bears game in every facet. And, you know, and through all that, like, Caleb looked pretty good. He missed his first 2 throws. He started out pretty bad, but then he got into a rhythm, and he was finding his guy, old man Keenan.
Had
he was slinging it, you know, and he didn't take a ton of sacks. The sack he took that knocked them out of Santos field goal range, not normal kicker field goal range, because it was 55-yarder. That was basically the end of the game. Yeah. Before then, you were kind of holding out a little bit of hope here and there, but you know, if they could have kicked that and made it and gone down to 14, and you could have talked yourself into something, but they had to punt. They were like 1st and 5 from the 22-yard line, and that drive ended in a punt. That's very Bears. That's like
their first drive of the game. They started with the ball, which I liked, and then a minute later they were punting, and it was just like that included the beginning of the game kickoff. And I think they said that happened. The Bears punted on their opening drive for the 11th time in 15 games. They don't seem to have ever cared about trying to score. That seems to be the problem pretty early on, even though they had they had a lot of yards and offense, but that seems to have been a big problem all season, is they did not seem to come out with it, either look like they were trying or be able to execute like they were trying.
Yeah, so one of their first 2 plays, their first 2 plays are usually a quick out to Keenan and then a run with DeAndre Swift. Now they'll mix and match that. Sometimes they'll do the out to Keenan first and then run it up the middle with Swift second, or sometimes they'll run it with Swift first or DJ and then throw a quick out to Keenan. But that's like their first 2 plays every single game. And then depending on how successful those plays are, you're either in 3rd and 9 if it was an incomplete pass and a 1-yard gain, or like 3rd and 2 if they actually completed it and Swift still got the 1-yard gain, because that's what he does, in the beginning of the game. And so, yeah, it's so predictable. And I think, people are picking up on the fact that they're not dialing up a lot of these deep shots with Caleb early. They're letting him kind of get into rhythm, which, I expect, yeah, he's a rookie. He's still figuring things out. Let him get some easy passes to complete. But at some point, you'd like to see them take a couple more shots downfield, And I like that Thomas Brown, his approach is very go for it, which, that's good in certain situations where you're just like, yeah, why not? There was one situation where he kicked a field goal to make it. They were down by 3 scores, and he kicked the field goal, and they were still down by 3 scores. So you're just like, why did you do that?
And they'd been going on 4th on that drive already, and then they eventually had to go for 4th again on a drive after. I think Jonathan Vilma was like, you're already going for it on 4th, dude. Like, there's a...
Just to stay consistent, right?
Yeah, and also just, nothing matters. So why are you playing like it matters? Like, maybe just... And I think we've been talking about that for a while, as I'm sure every fucking Bears podcast talking about, but it's like, just play... There's like a finesse element that you kind of don't... It seems like, why stick to that? Just maybe abandon some of those things. And I guess I did like a lot of the 4th and try going for it on 4th, and they were successful in it on 4th. Yeah. And so that was really good to see. But yeah, there just is this, maybe urgency isn't the right word. There's just something missing that they're not.
They're done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're done. And we're kind of done watching them. We still have to do that 2 more times. But everybody's done, The defense is they were an elite unit, right? We used the word elite in the beginning of the season.
Multiple times.
Holy crap.
Multiple episodes we used the word. They were.
Now they're maybe one of the worst units in the NFL. They have no interest in coverage. They have no interest in tackling. Now, granted, you're missing your 2 best defensive line, or 2 of your best interior defensive linemen, and your starting safety. But, man, you're still paying Tremaine Edmonds big bucks, right? Kyler Gordon's still out there. Jalen Johnson, you're paying him big bucks. Stevenson is just he needs an off season, or he needs to just clear his head or something, because he has not been the same since that Hail Mary game. The whole team hasn't, but he's been terrible.
Yeah,
he's been terrible. So, yeah, that was bad. But hey, you know what? You got to look at Ben Johnson, possible future Bears head coach, who's having these weird FU plays where he's let's just fake a fumble and just fuck with them and see if we can score. And they scored.
The internet told me that this is what the Packers accidentally did to us at the start of last season, and so then they had overlaid both plays and it looked pretty identical. And
yeah. So the Lions players were saying that they'd noticed, or they were watching film on how Bears players reacted to fumbles, specifically that play that you referenced with the Packers, and they thought they could exploit it. So Goff said that Ben Johnson actually wanted him to fumble it. And he's like, no, that's way too risky. I'll just fake it. And that kind of shit you laugh about. But imagine if if you heard Shane Waldron, it come out later that Shane Waldron had offered up to fake, actually fumble it and Caleb throw. You'd be like, man, this guy's a fucking idiot, right?
Yeah.
But that's because Shane Waldron tried to hand it off to a lineman and he fumbled it and it didn't work out for him. But success, it makes people think that you're a genius. And Ben Johnson is a literal genius. He's scored off the charts in aptitude tests, and could have been an astrophysicist, but chose to stick with football instead. So he's elite when it comes to math, logic, and computation. Not elite for football, but cream of the crop for the general population.
Is he your number one?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Just because it's staring you right in the face, right? We keep talking about, man, these Kevin O'Connells and Matt LaFleur's and Sean McVay's and Kyle Shanahan's, they're so good. We got to find ours, and it's there's somebody right there that's ready for you to do it, right? Are you gonna waste that opportunity to go hire Mike Vrabel? Which it's yeah, he'd he turned that locker room around a little bit, but like, where's he getting you? He was fired, right, for a reason, you know. And there's not a ton of coaches that do well after they get fired. I mean, Andy Reid is like the classic example. You know, he did well. Tony Dungy, John Gruden won a Super Bowl. But you know, typically those guys are far and few between. You get a lot of John Foxes, you know, that are just kind of like retread coaches.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles is doing okay, right? But if that's your ceiling, right, we should really try to aim higher. Plus, I don't think Vrabel and George McCaskey would get along.
No, why?
Because George does not like swearing. And I feel like Vrabel would just swear all the time.
It's a weird, like, sports. I mean, even if George McCaskey came to, like, when we play basketball, like, there's so much cursing happening on a sports field.
He would not like our basketball games.
Like, that's you gotta, like, a little bit of cursing, man. You know? Whatever. So okay, so it seems, what would be, like, maybe your hesitations for Ben Johnson becoming the Bears coach? Do you have any sort of like...
Yeah, you never know, right? Yeah. With coordinators, Matt Nagy coming from Kansas City, coach Patrick Mahomes. You're like, yeah. And then it just didn't work out. But could that be because Mitch Trubisky didn't work out, right? You don't know. You never know until these guys get in front, especially if they've never had a head coaching job. But I'd rather take that swing and miss. You know, I'd rather do the obvious thing. And if it bites you in the butt, then at least, you know, you can tell yourself that you made the best decision at the time. You know, obviously they have to go through their process, and if he bombs the interview process for whatever reason, fine. But like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather not them overthink it. Like Caleb, right? Jaden Daniels having a great year. Bo Nix having an okay year.
Getting
right?
better as
Getting better.
Is.
Drake May, fine. They could have taken any one of those guys or talked themselves into taking one of those guys. But Caleb was the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And I'm glad even now today, right? Even Jaden had like 5 TDs, 2 picks, whatever, yesterday. I'm still happy that we have Caleb Williams because I do think that he's the best overall player from that draft, you know, quarterback from that draft.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm happy with that. And I'm glad they didn't overthink it. And so Ben Johnson is kind of the same. It's like everybody was saying Caleb to the Bears that's what they should pick. And they ended up doing it. And I let out a sigh of relief because typically they overthink it. And I hope they don't do the same thing here with Ben Johnson. I hope they don't overthink it. And dude, it's a 2-for-1. You take him from the Lions too, who are the best team in that division, right?
Yeah. They set, I was reading, they set their own franchise record for like most points scored, most touchdowns scored, most wins in a season, and like this guy, you have the potential to take a dude from that.
Yeah. And I mean, people are talking about pairing him up with Ray Agnew, who is an assistant GM with the Lions, and pairing those two together. And that would mean that Poles would kind of get the axe.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I've defended Poles, but like if he ends the season on this losing streak, he has to go. He is responsible for I think 2 of the 3 Bears' longest losing streaks in franchise history.
Yeah.
And you either have to fire him or extend him. You have to do one of the two. So if you're like, does Poles deserve to be fired? You're like, I don't know. But does Poles deserve a 4-year extension? I don't think you can say yes, right?
A decision has to be made.
It's like Fields, right? For Fields, it was either, because his contract was coming up, you either have to decide he's the guy or move off of him, right? So people are like, I don't know if you can move off of Fields. It's like, okay, I can agree with you that. Are you going to give him a $40 million a year deal?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't think so. Well, if that's the answer, then you know that you can't, you know? You have to make that decision.
Yeah.
So I think Warren is less inclined to give Poles a deal than he is to start over again. So that's why I think you might end up, if they lose out in this sort of fashion, I think you're going to find a new GM. I mean, and like,
how do you justify? I mean, I guess the justification to keep him would be like, I guess the Caleb Williams decision, but is that
kind of fell into his lap?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, he did
the obvious thing.
The deals, I guess, to like trading the first to get DJ Moore and then getting the pick and then to like.
Yeah.
But
he's in year 3 of his tenure, and he needs 3 new offensive linemen at a minimum next year. You should not be 3 years into your GM job and need 3 new offensive linemen next year. Like, you're supposed to build from the trenches out. he's doing it the other way, right? He's got his wide receivers. He's taken a lot of shots on wide receivers, right? You talked about the trade for DJ. He traded for Keenan last year. He drafted Valus in the third. He drafted Tyler Scott. He traded a second for Chase Claypool. He has invested.
Drafted Rome, yeah.
Yeah, drafted Rome. He invested heavily in the wide receiver spot, right? And then for the offensive line, he's signing these journeyman guys. He signed Nate Davis. That didn't work out. Tevin Jenkins was Ryan Pace's guy. I think Braxton Jones was Ryan. Was he Ryan Pace's guy too? I don't remember. The best offensive lineman they have is the 9th overall pick, Darnell Wright. So imagine that. You spend high draft capital on your offensive lineman. They're going to be good, right? He just for some reason just neglects to do that. So I think that's going to be his undoing, along with the fact that he can't hire any coaches, right?
Yeah.
Eberflus overstayed his welcome. Waldron, absolute disaster.
Defensive coach at the beginning of the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric Washington, no. And then, last year we had the coach dismissed under weird terms and Yeah, so they've had 9 or 10 coaches fired.
Yeah.
It's not a good look, right? And you're in year 3, right? And you would think all right, I'm a new GM. The thing I got to get right is I got to get the trenches right and I got to get the coaching staff right. You didn't have either of those two.
And in some degree, we might be going backwards. In the beginning, I think we talked about you kind of have to go backwards to go forward, and you're trading away Khalil Mack and all those people. But our record is terrible compared to last year, and we're not kind of going in the direction. And so, yeah, what else does a person need to do to maybe say it's time to move on from them? They can have made good decisions that can set your franchise up, but now you're trying to be we're trying to now move. To build and grow.
He likes draft capital, except for second round picks for some reason. But he has an extra one from Carolina. So he established the draft capital thing. He fixed the salary cap, which was great. He's taken swings on players. He's just missed, you know? And it's tough. He took Tyreek Stevenson and picked right after him as the center for the Giants, who's been a solid member of that offensive line. And you're could have used that guy, right? And so Zach Pickens, who he took, in the second or third round, is a project. Kieran Amagaji, his tackle that he took from Yale, third round, is kind of like a project. He's a healthy scratch, which is not good.
Yeah.
They'd rather start Larry Borum over him, which is a bad sign, because Larry Borum's probably not going to be on the team next year. So I don't know. Poles has a lot to defend, I think, for a new coach that's coming in. These are all fair questions. And if you're Kevin Warren, you're do I want to answer these questions, or do I want to defend this man, or do I just want to start over?
Yeah. Damn. With each episode, it becomes, at least in my gut, clearer and clearer that we're moving on.
Yeah.
I
think so.
Yeah, from him.
I think so, which is weird to say this time last year. You know? It's weird to say. But, I think Caleb has been doing a really good job amidst 2 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators, fucking chaos everywhere. He broke a lot of Bears records already. He's probably going to move, he's going to have a top 5 Bears quarterback season of all time in his rookie year.
Yeah, in a lot of our games and decisions, the wins becoming losses were hinged on kind of
nothing he did.
Yeah.
He put us in those positions for those wins to become losses.
Yeah.
He took the lead against the Commanders.
Yeah.
He got us into field goal range against the Packers.
Yeah.
He got us to overtime against the Vikings. Now, granted, he took a horrible sack in overtime, but still.
Yeah. He
got us to overtime. He got us in field goal range against the Lions.
Yeah.
He's the one getting us to these close spots, and then we
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very interesting to watch, because it's okay, do his numbers and things, they're great, but we're losing, but it's kind of outside of him to some degree. So it's cool. It's interesting, because I guess my feelings about him haven't changed at all, really. There's still obviously questions that we're kind of getting to the end, so maybe we can talk about this next week, of just no interceptions and hundreds of throws, but maybe there's an opportunity for taking more risk and growth and all that stuff. But my feelings, and I feel like almost everybody's kind of on the same page. Like nothing about our feelings about him has changed through all of this.
I wish his deep ball accuracy was a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like it's like not even close. It's just like way overthrown. I don't know if he's doing that because he's worried about his streak or whatever. I really hope that's not the case. Part of me is like, you know, maybe throw a pick and then you'll loosen up and you'll just start having more touchdowns because of it, right? Yeah. Because you're taking some more chances. I do like he threw that 50-50 ball up for Rome on the fourth down.
So nice. Yeah.
Rome was a really good 50-50 like contested catcher at Washington. They need to run more of those for him. They run some of them for DJ, and DJ is not a very good contested catch guy. He's like a yak guy, which is like now they're like treating him like a glorified running back. But you know, Rome is a contested catch guy, and they should do that more often.
I think it was 4th and 1. It was like 4th and short. So like those, and they got, I don't know how many yards they got, but it's like, that's when I was watching that, I was like, that's what got me jacked up a little bit. I was like, okay, man, like that's cool. Unexpected, and you got really far, and that's like the momentum that you want to see. And yeah, there's obviously a lot of room for him to improve, but throughout all of the chaos, I mean, yeah, he's setting
records, man. Like he's got like 4 or 5. What was the stat that I saw? That he's the 5th quarterback all time with 15 or more touchdown passes and fewer than 5 interceptions in his first 15 career starts. So that was RG3, the immortal Damon Heward, Dak Prescott, and CJ Stroud. You know, so an interesting list, but still a list. And he's doing stuff like that, and he's got another 70-something pass attempts, 77, I think, pass attempts to pass Rodgers for most pass attempts without a pick. Maybe that's what he's going for. I don't know. It's certainly not going to – I don't think it'll happen this season. That's a lot of passing for him to do. I mean, maybe. They'll likely be down anyway, so who knows. But, yeah, I don't know. Very interesting. Honestly, it's gotten to the point, and we talked about this, I know we're running out of time, where when you're watching these games – I don't give a shit when the defense is on the field. Yeah. Like, at all. Like, if the Lions, to me, the Lions going 3 and out and Caleb getting the ball back is great. The Lions scoring on Jamison Williams, or like, you know, on the first or second play of their drive, scoring, getting Caleb the ball back equally is great. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care, right? I just want to watch the offense. I want to watch Caleb. Watching the defense just pisses me off, honestly, because they don't tackle anybody or cover anybody or generate any sort of quarterback pressure. It's just like glorified scrimmage out there. So I'm just like, let's get the ball back to the offense. Yeah. Let's just watch them see what they can do. Yeah.
2 more games, man.
2 more games.
Okay. So as we close out, they have a game this coming Thursday.
Correct.
So we'll be recording sometime after Thursday. Playing the Seahawks. I think Geno Smith might be back again. I think we had thought maybe this is a chance for them to win before when we thought
the line's
only
like 3. You know, it's at Soldier Field. This is their last chance because Green Bay, or who are they playing at the end of the season? Yeah, Green Bay is going to have something to play for, you know. So that's not going to be a win by any stretch. So Seattle's their best shot. I would look out for the offensive line. Braxton Jones, you know, broke his ankle, so he's out. So Kieran was a healthy scratch. So interested to see who they put in at left tackle. It's going to be either Larry, Borum, or Kieran. And Tevin left the game with an injury. Did you know that Tevin has shown up on the injury report with 5 like different body parts, like injury? Usually show up on the injury report. You're like, oh, it's his hamstring. It's, you know, it's been bugging him throughout the season. He shows up on the injury report, but it's the same muscle thing.
My neck, my
this
back,
dude,
and
exactly. My crack. His neck, his back, his, you know, and his calf, his hamstring and his calf. So yeah. So it's a calf injury. I don't know if he's going to play or not. If he does play, he's probably going to leave the game. So it's either going to be Curran, Jack Curran, who had a penalty. He's not very good. Or maybe they move Kieran to guard. I don't know. Give the kid a shot there, see what he looks like, and start boring him. Either way, it's just like not good.
Okay. Well, Merry Christmas to you all and happy holidays. When you all listen to this, it'll be Christmas, or it'll be Christmas in a day. We have something special for you, and I'll have Samir talk about it as we close out today's episode.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if any of you guys follow Dave Swirsky, super fan on X, but I wanted to leave you guys with a Christmas parody song. So Merry Christmas. Hope you enjoy.
For Samir Patel, I'm Chirag Rathod. We are the Bears in the neighborhood.
On the first loss of this streak, the Bears they gave to me a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the second week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the third week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the fourth week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me blocked field goals, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the fifth week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me overtime tees, blocked field goal, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the sixth week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me no timeout by Fluke's overtime tees, blocked field goal, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the seventh week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me new head coach not winning, no timeout by Fluke's overtime tees, blocked field goal, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the eighth week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me Monday night meltdown, new head coach not winning, no timeout by Fluke's overtime tees, blocked field goal, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. On the ninth week of this streak, the Bears they gave to me blowout loss at home, Monday night meltdown, new head coach not winning, no timeout by Fluke's overtime tees, blocked field goal, 3 lousy points stomped by the Cards and a heartbreaking Hail Mary. The Bears.
Merry Christmas, Saskatchewan.
Merry Christmas, Saskatchewan.